Hi, everyone. My name is Roland with Raymond Library, and I am with Sarah Crowne, who is the author of All These Threads of Time, which is a really good debut novel. She's a great writer. I'm so impressed. And not just because of the plot, which is really cool. How do you stop a time traveling serial killer? I love that back of the, I just love that. That's such a good idea. So, Sarah, how do you stop a time traveling a serial killer? What do you do?
I guess you have to read the book to find out. But you have to be a better time traveler than him, right?
Right. You got to be faster,
You have to
right?
be faster, yes.
So, tell me a little bit about why and how you came to write this book.
Sure. So I've been a writer my entire life. Since before I could print, I was making up stories. My mom used to, I always tell a story. My mom used to keep a radio on the counter in the kitchen to record songs that came on the radio. This was the 80s. You had to wait for songs to come on the radio. And I would pull up the kitchen chair, hit record, and tell my stories. So we still have the tapes. And you'll hear, like the new Madonna song at the time, the DJ talking about it, and then my little voice, once upon a time, and would tell a story.
Wow. How old were you at that point?
Oh gosh, two or three.
Wow.
Yes. I all just always loved stories and continue to write from there. Um, All These Threads of Time was actually my third novel first published. And I've always just been fascinated with time travel and the idea of, what if we could go back to the past? What if we could change the past? Would we, could we, should we? And what effects would that have? I think we all have those moments where we think, gosh, if I only knew then what I know now, right? I could make something different. And this was also during COVID. And I saw, there was just so much grief I felt in the world at that time. And I just had this vision of this family that was in grief and with this, unsolved murder of their daughter. And how would they, deal with that? And of course, being a child of the 80s, I love the 80s. But I did specifically place it in 1987 strategically because I wanted to place it before DNA evidence was really a thing, and before there was, so many cameras and that sort of, thing around that would make it a lot easier to catch this killer. So there was a lot of planning and thought that went into it.
Oh, I can tell.
The idea, yeah, the idea generally was my writing teacher always says, write down all the ideas you have of every story you'd ever think you'd want to write. And so one day I was just writing down all these ideas and I knew these concepts, I knew murder, 1980s, family, grief, this sort of thing. And then I thought, oh, what if the killer's a time traveler? And I almost didn't write it down because I thought it was stupid. And I was like, oh, no one's gonna read that. And it just my heard my teacher's voice in my head, like, write down every idea, even if you think it's dumb. And so I wrote it down, and it's the one I just kept going back to over and over the next couple of weeks. So I just knew I had to write it at that point.
Wow, it is such a cool idea. I'm trying to think if I've come across time traveling serial killers before. And I kind of feel like there's been, like with Doctor Who, there's like the chase, but not a serial. I mean, this is really getting into the nitty-gritty. I mean, she has a homecoming dance and they have there's like all kinds of other characters that you really believe could be the killer,
Yeah.
even before they understand time travel. So it's like getting from the base of what time travel is, like how do you like do it, you know? And it's really lovely, lovely how that's handled. And I'm not going to give it away, but
Yes.
that serial killer is really that's a very clever kind of manipulation of plot, I would say.
Yeah. Oh,
It,
thank you.
it's like Agatha Christie.
Oh, thank you. It's definitely a surprise ending, right? Everyone I talk to says that they were shocked at who the killer was, which is good. That makes me happy because it means I did my job.
Yes, very well. And I was also very impressed with the second surprise ending, which
Mhm.
is
Yeah,
how the whole thing ends is really
yeah.
very cool.
Thank
I
you.
really, I'm yeah, very impressed.
Thank you.
But tell more about your writing process and how this sort of how you're disciplined, how you must be disciplined.
I am, yes. I'm very disciplined. I've come to be a very disciplined writer, and I am a very structured writer, especially writing mysteries, because you really need to plot out the crime and what happened and, how we're going to twist it and how, I'm going to hide it from the reader so that they can, it's a shock ending at the end. So as I said before, I've been writing my whole life. I did start my study in writing with the UCLA Writers Program. And from there, I just, met many writers and I learned about a man named John Truby, who is a Hollywood script doctor. So he is a story structure guru. He's also a best-selling author of The Anatomy of Story and The Anatomy of Genres. You can find his stuff at trubystory.com, I think is the website. And I started studying with him as far as, learning about structure of story and genres and how each genre really teaches us something about life, right? And, through that process, I learned how to structure various, stories and worked with him very closely to structure this story. There were so many things that I had to figure out. I did so much research on time itself.
Oh
Just,
boy, yeah.
I think I spent a year and a half just reading books about time and time travel and how that might be possible and what implications that might have. I read a fabulous book, The Order of Time by Carlo Rovelli, which I would highly recommend. It will blow your mind the way you
Okay.
think about time.
Say
And
that again by John Ravelli.
Carlo Rovelli, The
Oh,
Order of Time.
The Order of
And
Time.
a lot of my research ended up coming from that book when, I figured out the time travel rules for this story. But yeah, my writing process is, I structure the plot and it's a very long and tedious process to do that. I can spend a year and a half to 2 years just, working on my premise, the characters, what they want, what they need, what their weaknesses are, um, the opponent's plan. Everything is really, as a lot of times, when we read, we read from the hero's perspective. But when we write, we really have to think about the opponent because the stronger the opponent is, the more the hero has to rise to beat them. And that's what makes that, narrative drive flow because it's that opponent throwing punches and the hero throwing punches back that keeps the story going. So I spend a very long time figuring that out. What might the opponent do? How might the hero react? Once I have a scene list, though, and I start to write, the actual writing process for me goes very fast.
I
So,
I can tell it flows. It
yeah,
really flows. And the dialogue is so lovely. It's
you.
not too much. It's very lovely. Yeah. That's
Yeah,
and so you're structuring it like a scene by scene. You're imagining it scene by scene.
yeah. Scene by scene. So I'm first getting into the nitty-gritty of just the premise alone can be very challenging to, you can be inspired by an idea, but you have to make it an original idea and you have to pull out of it the best possible story that it can be so that the story can shine from that idea. And that takes a lot of work. It's like chiseling away, at a sculpture if you're an artist. And once I have that solid foundation, I build from there. That said, when I actually write, so I'll have a scene list, say of 100 scenes at the end. And when I sit down to write each scene, I forget about the structure. So I know, okay, on this day, I'm going to write about the homecoming dance. But what that homecoming dance looks like and what the characters are wearing and how they talk and what they say is a mystery to me in that moment. And I learn things about the characters then as I'm starting to write. And, I might learn like, oh, Sylvie really loves Guns N' Roses. Gee, I never thought about that before. And I can use that in the story somehow. Or, her sister loves pop music like Tiffany and Debbie Gibson, and they clash a little bit about that. And I take those things as I learn, as I allow myself to be free within the scene so that I have a little bit, so I structure, but I allow the story to breathe as well.
Yeah. Do you rewrite and rewrite? I mean, is it something that you constantly are like you know, fixing or
Not
no?
in the way you think. So before I became a very structured writer, I did rewrite novels over and over again. No one wants to write the same novel 10 times
Right.
of stress. But because I spend so long planning my structure, when I finally write, it's there. The bones are there, everything's there. Now there is a heavy editing process because as I was writing and allowing myself to free write through that scene list, I let myself go and just write. And sometimes that means there's too many words, or maybe I show and don't, I tell or don't show, or whatever the rule is.
Yeah.
um,
And what about consistency too? Are
and
you
consistency, right? And I have to look back and say, oh, okay, she was wearing this color shirt here, and now she's time traveled, or did that all make sense? Or wouldn't her clothes change, or did I make them change, or did I say the same thing twice, or did I take too long to get to the action? Or I'll ask myself those sorts of things, and I'll heavily edit it myself. I hire professional editors as well
oh
that
wow.
go through and they look for anything punctuation, grammar, um,
Wow.
anything of that sort. And then I have a very solid writers group and very trusted readers that will then read it after the editors have been through it. And they'll point out things, well, gee, this didn't make sense, or, I wish maybe you had said more about this. And I'll make edits again and go over it. I spend a lot of time editing and I still will find a typo or a sentence
Wow.
that I'm like, oh, I feel like I could have written that better.
Oh
But
no.
at some point, you have to let the story go because that is part of being a writer. I think so often, especially a beginning writer, you keep it close to your heart and you don't want to show it to anyone or share it with anyone. But it's kind of like the story isn't born until you actually put it out into the world and
That
it becomes alive with your readers and it means something to them and it takes on a whole life of its own. And you really need that. You need to let go and you need to do that so you can write your next story.
yeah, that's a great piece of advice with everything. In the
Yes.
arts, it's so important to stop and
Hmm.
just not it's not precious to you anymore. You just
Right.
let it be. Yeah, it's
Exactly.
given away to whomever appreciates it, really. It-
Yes.
That experience of what it is of the art. Yeah. I just
Exactly.
I have to I'm really impressed and I keep saying that.
Thank
But
you.
it's
It means so
true.
much to me.
No, and I'm so now okay, so you're selling these at like an author's fair.
Yes. So I actually travel to many different shows. I do tons of Barnes and Noble signings. I actually have quite a few coming up. I've done them in Connecticut, Massachusetts, Maine. I'm heading to Pennsylvania this October, as well as New Jersey. Barnes and Noble has been amazing to me. They're very supportive of independent authors, which really means a lot.
Yeah.
Also part of the Nutmeg Literary Festival group in Connecticut.
Oh,
And
good.
so that is a fantastic group. Any writer in Connecticut should absolutely join. They hold many events all year long across the state. So I'm often at many of those events as well. I've also had the, honor of being supported by local independent bookstores like Pourings and Passages and Folklore and Fable featured me as their indie author last spring for their Spotlight of the Month. So
Wow.
I did a signing there. So yes, I am constantly every weekend somewhere with my stories. Um, all these Threads of Time as well as my Rebel Writers series.
Uh-huh.
And yeah, I love it because, you know, putting something on the internet, it's just lost in the algorithm. And I know so many writers talk about how, they really dislike social media marketing and it's this unfortunate, like, evil we have to do, but it doesn't always feel authentic, because everyone is on there trying to sell something and it sort of feels like screaming into the void. But when I go to an actual event and readers come up to me, writers come up to me, so many people come up to me and they ask me questions and or if they've read the story, they love the story or they're intrigued, they want to know more or how to be a writer or you know how to make their dreams come true. How did you do this? I don't want to be a writer, but how did you make this amazing dream come true? I love those conversations and I love connecting with people to
That's
share that.
so great because there is that opportunity to see, to meet the people who are reading the books and not
Exactly.
like in some sort of internet, heaven that we don't know.
Right. You don't know. Are they listening? You don't know. Or is the, social media pushing your algorithm that day or not? It's strange. Sometimes you can post something, it's like two people look at it. Another day, it's thousands are looking at it. And I can't figure out
Right.
the reason, you
Well,
know?
and I was thinking that today. It's so there's so much chaos in the world, and trying to keep yourself from the chaos is very
Yes,
difficult, but
exactly.
also trying to make a statement that is
Mhm,
very important, I
mhm.
think, to make. I mean, especially, well, I'm not going to go because I love the ending of this book and how it really is a happy ending, even though it's sort of sad.
And it's a sad, happy ending,
It's a
right?
sad
It's a sad, happy
ending.
ending. And the story wrote itself for that ending.
Really.
Me as the writer, I saw the projection as I was breaking the story of what had to happen. And I just thought, oh, that's so sad, but yet it's so right. And it has to happen.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so, yeah,
Well, and I remember a phrase, love demands sacrifice.
yes,
That-
exactly.
That's what it is.
And that's really what the story is about.
It's so beautiful. It's yeah. Anyway, I lost the thread of my own thinking right now.
Oh, no.
But I should back in time. I should jump back in time and see what I
Yeah.
was going to. Yeah, I met you at one of these author places, and I was so impressed with the just the quality of the pieces that were out there. All the authors are so it and it was good to connect and understand some of these organizations. Well, the independent bookstores and stuff. That's
Yes,
a really great
absolutely.
thing to
Hmm.
be keeping going. And some of these books, I'm I bought this at the winery where you were, but
Oh,
and I'm going to donate it to the library.
so
Are they books in the libraries? Are some of them?
they are in libraries. They're in many local libraries, the Killingly Public Library, the Canterbury Library, local to me,
Yeah.
the Pelham, Connecticut local library, Brooklyn, Connecticut library.
Okay.
So yes, they are in many libraries.
And there's that that authors talk in the spring. They do this library talk, like authors go through all the libraries in the eastern part of the state. Have you been involved in that? Have
I
you?
have not been involved. I would love to be involved in that.
Yeah,
I have
yeah.
not.
It's a I'll send you some information on it. I'll email.
Okay, thank you.
So I don't know if you have any more to say. Do you?
Um, The book is available
Okay.
online.
I think yes, so I bought it from you at the
Yes.
author event. But yeah, this is available on Amazon and Barnes and
It,
Noble.
yes, Barnes and Noble, Amazon, also bookshop.org. It's a fabulous way to support independent bookstores.
Oh, so
Um,
there's an online, bookstore.org.
Yes, bookshop.org. And it's various. So when you order a book from there, it will order the book from your local independent bookstore. So, or
Oh,
whichever bookstore you choose, which I think is so wonderful.
wow.
Um, so it is available there. It's also available in person at various Barnes and Nobles, Warwick, Rhode Island, Holyoke, Mass, Glastonbury, Connecticut. Um, my Rebel Writers, I also have another series called Rebel Writers.
Yes.
So Rebel Writers is a little bit different than All These Threads of Time. It's more of a creative, nonfiction, inspirational book where I actually discovered I'm related to several historic authors. And I became so excited about that. I started touring their homes because I wanted to learn more about their lives, especially as I realized that, so many lived here in New England.
Wow.
And through that journey of just, discovering what does it mean to be a writer and, what does it take to really put your work out there and learning about their lives and learning about how they influenced each other, how they were inspired by one another. Many of them were friends and knew each other. I started writing the Substack about it, and people started writing to me saying, please do a book. So, Rebel Writers is each chapter is dedicated to a different author and their lives. And it's sort of done in an outline format on purpose because I want you to have a quick read to get a, fast impact of hey, this is this author's life. This is what they did. And then there's reflections at the end of each chapter of this is what we can learn from their sacrifices, from their trials, their triumphs to make our own dreams come true.
Yeah, very important. That's what
Yeah.
biography teaches us is what they did wrong, we can do right, or what their mistakes,
Exactly.
we can learn from their mistakes or their triumphs too. Yeah,
Yes,
history is so
exactly.
important. History is so important.
It's amazing. I mean, I learned things like that Herman Melville was, very good friends with Nathaniel Hawthorne, helped him and mentored him through writing Moby Dick,
I
which was
didn't know that that was
right.
a connection.
And to the point where he had his own room where he would sleep at Melville's house in the winter when it was
Wow.
very cold, which is why the book is dedicated to Nathaniel Hawthorne.
How
So
cool.
yeah, just amazing things how, Emerson really started this revolution, for lack of a better word, in Concord, Massachusetts. He often lent books to Louisa May Alcott. He paid their family's rent at times. Um,
Wow.
her
Now,
father was,
who's an author that you're related to?
yes.
Yeah,
So,
which one? Which
Mark Twain,
you are?
yeah,
Really?
yes. Henry David Thoreau,
Oh, wow.
Agatha Christie, actually, his
No.
cousin, Edgar Allan Poe,
Wow.
also a cousin, Emily Dickinson.
Oh,
There's
that
a bunch. Yes.
you're like coming down with all like how did you figure this out with ancestry.com and all
Yes.
those?
So my grandfather's sister, my Aunt Renee, God bless her, she decades ago hired someone to research the family tree from that side of my family. And when she passed away, my mom gave me all of her research. And I was very young at the time, a teenager, and I just sort of, oh, what am I going to do with this? Kind of put it in a box and set it away. And when I got older, I started, wondering, well, what is here? So I took that information and I put it into familysearch.org. And when you put your information in, it goes ahead and it finds relatives in other places and it makes beautiful, family tree maps and this sort of thing. And so it has an option on their famous relatives. And, oh, are you related to anyone famous? And so I looked and I saw all of these authors amongst other, presidents and different people pop up. But of course, I was very excited about the writers. And I thought, this can't be true. Like, okay, amazing. This can't be true. So I pulled out, my research and started cross-referencing because it will show you how, down the line. So, for example, Edgar Allan Poe and I share the same 10th great grandparents. So, some of these are very distant, but they're there.
Wow.
And I would match it up and say, oh, wow, we really are related. That's super cool.
Yeah, some of the cousins can go way, way far back.
Yes. Yes.
Like, my 10th cousin twice removed or something.
Exactly.
And
And
yeah,
but it's so interesting.
it
And so
is.
just to know that and then just to see how they interacted in history with
And
each other.
their identity. And now, as a teenager or a young adult, did you feel that there was some sort of destiny involved?
Absolutely. I was, like I said, I was always a writer. I was always writing. I was very scared to share my writing for a very long time. I had a wonderful English teacher in high school that really encouraged me. And I, had poetry published and I ended up winning a national contest. And that really sparked my confidence
Wow.
to
Yeah.
start sharing it with others.
Yes. Absolutely phenomenal.